Thursday Love. Thursday Love.
I can say we won't about to show up.
I'm gonna show up.
So you gonna show up? Hey everybody, welcome to Thursday Love. Thank you for joining us on tonight. We ask that you come on in the room.
Come on in the room.
And share this with your family, share this with your friends. Tag someone that you know, tag someone that you think you know that may can relate to the topic that we're going to discuss on tonight. But
Tag someone you don't know.
I hope everybody's doing all right. I hope everybody's doing okay. Hey, Vet. How are you feeling? You had a good night? You had a good day? You having a good week?
I had a good tomorrow's Friday.
Tomorrow's Friday?
Yes.
And what are y'all doing in school tomorrow?
Tomorrow is you can dress up spirit day or something like that.
What you dressing up as?
I'm not telling. It's a surprise.
Hey Aaron, how you doing?
What you dressing up as tomorrow?
I'm not dressing up as anything no more. I'm not going to work. So
lazy.
It's been a month since we have talked to you guys. It's been a month. Yes, it has. Last month we did a segment on suicide prevention and awareness, and we had 3 great guests that came up on Thursday Love and told their amazing stories. 2 people which lost their brothers to suicide, and we had our own nephew who lost his best friend to suicide in high school. And it really touched a lot of people because there's so many people out there right now that are dealing with thoughts of suicide, even with our own kids. You know, they have friends at school that have struggled with suicide. They even had a teenager at their school to struggle, and he actually went through the act and killed himself a couple of weeks ago here in Durham. You know, a lot of people are struggling with that, and it comes from different mental health issues, mental illness, hurt and pain and loneliness that they feel and they don't discuss. But Thursday Love, we're trying to create a platform where we can discuss these type of topics, these hard topics, these very truthful topics that happen to us daily. Life is happening. That's how we call it now. We call it life. Are we freezing? Oh God. The camera. It's just a camera. Y'all hold on just a second. Camera's back on. All right, the camera left us. Hold on just a second. I don't think our background want to be there either. Let's try something else.
That's all right. Y'all see what we got in the background. There we go.
Okay, let's work with this background. Hey, those that are up here, I don't know who is that. They say Facebook user, but whoever's up here, hey everybody. But as I was stating, we try to reach out and touch on these topics that are very truthful and very real, that are affecting a lot of people in our lives. It's affecting our own homes, people that we know, our loved ones. And on tonight, we have another great topic, is domestic violence and breast cancer awareness. And we have 2 beautiful and amazing women that are going to come up here and share their story on today. Neither one of us have gone through these experiences, but we have seen it with our friends that have gone through these type of situations. Last year, we had an amazing segment from a breast cancer survivor as well as a domestic violence survivor. And it was funny how their stories kind of intertwined when they were 2 totally different areas that were affected. And so on tonight, we ask that you tag someone. We ask that you share this with friends and family. If you know someone that maybe you think maybe
strangers,
that you think may be going through domestic violence or being verbally abused or so forth. I don't know what's going on our internet. I don't know what's going on tonight. What is going on? Oh, well, wow.
We look like the Matrix, y'all.
Yeah. Can everybody see us? Can everybody hear us? Can anybody hear us? Can anybody see us? Shake your head like we are frozen. I asked all the girls to get off Wi-Fi. Are you on Wi-Fi?
I don't know, but don't say much because it still might be on.
Okay. Hello. Please, somebody say something. There we go. I think we can up. It's the girls and tell them get off Wi-Fi. Hello?
You still
Oh, they say I can see you and hear you.
Yes.
Well, apparently it seems like we're frozen on this side. I don't know what is going on. So please, we about to bring up these two amazing women and let them share their story. Is anything you want to say before we get started?
No, but I mean, some people might be saying, "Why y'all talking about this stuff? This ain't got nothing to do with married couples or dating," but it actually does, because this kind of stuff affects domestic violence. Of course, definitely affects
those that are in relationships.
Those are relationships. And breast cancer awareness. It also affects those in relationships because of the stress that it brings on the relationship.
Right. Okay, now this won't go away. There it go. A little matrix, a little slow. Yes, you can see it, but a little slow motion. Okay, I think we back. I think we back in it now. We're good.
Yeah,
I think we're good. All right, so let's bring up our guest on tonight. All right. Can y'all hear us? Can y'all see us? I don't know what is going on tonight.
Yes, I can see you.
Yes.
Oh! You ain't got your thing charged.
Yes, it is. It's charging.
Now you can.
Go around. Let's see if it's plugged in.
No.
Oh, it is plugged in. I don't know what is going on. Okay, we are having so many technical difficulties tonight, and this has never happened. This is never happened. Where's your laptop? This has never happened. Oh my God.
It's live. It's Thursday.
It is Thursday, but we have never had this to happen. Like, never. I know, I'm talking to Tia. They can talk with us while we having issues.
Does my picture look blurry?
No, your picture is not a little blurry. So much for our virtual background. They don't want to go to it. Oh Lord. All right. With that being said, we're gonna be up here with a green screen.
That's fine. It looks good.
Oh Lord.
Okay, so I'm not sure if they're coming back in, so we'll wait and see, and then we may have to start back over, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think she said they was restarting the laptop.
Okay.
I'm so nervous. That's why I'm like, I'm not used to talking like this. This is like a
It's
first
all
for
right.
me. So I would just kind of tailgate after you.
We're gonna do this.
This is a first.
You got
Like
it.
half my family don't even know I went through it. So they're probably gonna be like, why didn't you tell me?
It's all right. Are we still live?
I don't know. They might have put us in the. I don't know. I don't know about this technology.
It says live. Okay. It says you're in the show. Oh yeah, so we're here and everyone's watching us, trying to figure out what's going on.
It's weird because they can see us, but I can't see them.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey.
They are.
Y'all still here?
Yes. Yeah. God is a good God.
All right. sorry. We like to sincerely apologize to everybody. I don't know what is going on.
Yeah, if Sierra said anything inappropriate, ask God if you ask God to forgive you.
I did.
We didn't know if they can still see us or what.
We can see the t-shirt.
Oh, now we echoing.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
All right. All right. Well, let's get started. Let's get started to see how far we can go. Ladies, can you please introduce yourself? Dr. Young, you go first. Latia, go second.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucretia. Just briefly, a little bit about myself. I was trying to decide what I was going to share, but I love to talk about my family. So I am originally from Hilton Head, South Carolina. Grew up country girl. It's definitely not the Hilton Head of today. And so grew up on a dirt road, country. And I'm the oldest of 4 children, traditional household with my parents. And currently, this January, my husband and I will be married for 30 years, and we have 3 children, 27, 24, and 16-year-old. And so just a little bit about me. And I'm an educator. I'm in the educational field.
What do you do in the education field?
So prior to my cancer diagnosis, I was a school superintendent.
Wow.
You grabbed the wrong one.
Uh-oh. Hold on, y'all. Go ahead.
We can't hear you.
All right, let's go. I'm sorry. I had my asthma pump and he grabbed the wrong one, so he went to go get excuses. Go ahead, Tia.
Okay. My name is Latia. I'm born and raised in North Carolina. I actually was born in a car. How about that?
Oh, wow.
Right outside the hospital. Let's see. I have a daughter that's 9, and I have a bonus son who is 13.
Mm-hmm.
I work in healthcare. I am a accessioning supervisor for clinical research company. Let's see. And I'm an elder in the Lord's Church. And I think that's about it. It's me. I love my family, church, my work life. I work so hard to get where I am. I don't feel like I'm successful, but I feel like I'm making my way to success. So I'm just excited about what life has brought. Everything.
Okay. If you both could tell us one great thing about yourself, because we good at picking out the negative about ourselves. If I met you and I wanted to talk to you.
Still here. She said we can't hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
Crystal, can you still hear us?
No, that was at 9:14. We're good.
It's 9:15 now.
Okay. Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. If you could pick one positive thing about you, okay.
Great. Okay.
Thanks, Crystal. To share with everybody, what would you say about yourself? It don't matter who goes first.
Okay. I would say, for me, I have the gift of love.
Mm-hmm.
I have the power. I've been given the gift to love people, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love the love.
I love the love. Okay. I love the love.
You got to pay for that one.
And I would consider I'm like that more than a conqueror person. Like you said one thing. I gift of love.
Okay, Lucretia.
So I would say a gift of teaching and administration. That would be the 2 that I said that I lead with the most, and that's in the church as well as in my profession, secular world.
Okay. And so on tonight we are going to discuss, because it seems like everything is good now, and I'm happy. Everything's working.
All things work together for the good.
All of them.
So on tonight, once again, we're going to discuss two touchy subjects for some people. It's funny. I'm gonna start with Tia because I want to tell her my little story bit first. When I was going to do the segment last year, and I said, yeah, I got to find someone to do the domestic violence piece. I got to, because that's not something somebody's talking about. She was like, well, you know, I went through that, and I said, well, I've known you all these years. I didn't know that, and she was like, yeah, like I was supposed to know. And I'm like, breast cancer, you have more people to be verbally open about these things. And I was like, but domestic violence, that's not something somebody said, well, I was domestically violent, beat up or abused or whatever. It's not something that people come out and just speak and say. So it's kind of hard to ask around to find out those type of things. But for her to just say, well, I went through that. And if you need me, if you ever need me, I'm here to share my story. And I know you didn't want to go first, but I wanted to share that little bit because I want to, please share your story. We're going to start with domestic violence first to bring some awareness to it. So please share your story.
Okay. Sometime in my life, I got involved with a guy. I thought it was heaven sent. Honestly, I just thought he was heaven sent. Other than the fact that he wasn't saved, he wasn't even practicing the religion. It was the physical appearance that I was like attracted to. So we got involved and we hung out and everything was good. Like besides the fact he won't save, but I was saved, but I was, straddling the fence. So I still like my thug life. I was saved, but I like the thugs, So we got involved, we started hanging out and everything was cool. Like we just hung out and it was fun. Like we would watch Tom and Jerry and just fun stuff. Like I felt we just lived that life like with no cares. Like we didn't have kids. So it was just me and my dog and him. So we got involved in one day he came to my house and he looked weird. And I was like, I was like, well, maybe he's just been drinking because, I knew he drunk. But then he started like acting really suspicious. Like, I mean, it was something different that I had never experienced. And then I remember we was having a conversation and I had said something that upset him. And he started, verbally abusing me, like calling me names and, like just saying stuff that was not like him. And because I am who I am, I'm mouthy. I'm talking back. I'm like, I don't know who you talking to, but what you're not gonna do, I'm that shit. I was raised with boys, so it was nothing for me to like stand up to anybody. I had no fear.
Right.
I had no fear. Like I felt like I could do everybody. So, one thing led to another, and I remember he got in my face, and I'm of course me being myself. Like I bet you won't do it. I bet you do this, and we just kind of going back and forth, and it was weird because it was a person that I've never. It was like a totally different person. And he grabbed me by my neck. And then I knew it was serious. I was like, oh, he about to really try me. So I'm like, okay. He grabbed me by my neck. And next thing I know, I was getting beat in the head. And it was so like I couldn't respond. It was almost like I went blank, like I lost myself. Like I didn't know who I was. Like it was kind of like I can't believe this really happened. Like shocking. Like this dude just is. It's like you have no thoughts. Like you're getting hit in the head, and I'm struggling. Just trying to make my way out. And long story short, he was on drugs. And we kind of kept going through it, and I felt like I could save him. I was, in church. I'm a church girl. I felt like I could save him. And to me, I was like, that's not really who he was. I felt like, he loved me. I'm gonna just stick it out because I can pray him through. We can do this together, And I wasn't even that close to the Lord. So how, you know what I'm saying? But I felt like if I could get him there, then that would save him. It was an accident. He would never do it again. He's telling me he loved me and yada, yada, yada. But it was that moment, I just couldn't believe that was happening to me. And I couldn't fight back. Never in my life have I ever been in a fight that I couldn't fight back.
Right.
So it was, I don't even know the words. Like, this is my first time actually really talking about it like this. Like I kind of made mention, anytime I'm like kind of ministering about it, just mention it, but not really like going into details about it. It was a time in my life that I couldn't explain. Like, I just felt he was my friend. And I had fallen in love with him. And I was like, I can change him. He'll change. That was just one time thing. It wasn't until later on that I found out that he was he was on drugs. So it just, the verbal abuse, it was like every time he would come back high, it was when the verbal abuse, the hitting, it was just awful. But I felt like it was love because he kept coming back home. I felt love. And I yearned for that friendship, that companionship. And to me, I was like, he apologized. He loves me. He's going to be there. He's going to always, he paid bills. I just felt loved. I felt like that was like a moment. And I'm like, everybody has moments. I try to make excuses for him to stay with him. My family didn't know about it. Actually, I remember one time I had mentioned it. One time I was preaching, and one of my family members was there, and they had got really upset because they knew nothing about it. And here it is years later. They was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And it was my brother. So you can imagine how a sibling just finding out that their sister was abused.
Right.
And then it's so crazy because it's so to see, I became an abuser. Like I felt like I had to fight everybody after that happened.
Wow.
It was like everybody was attacking me. So it was like, I'm gonna get you before you get me type of thing. So even after that, it was like I got in these relationships where I was always fighting. And it wasn't them, it was me. It was like I felt like I had to fight all the time. It was like I had this angry spirit that I started drinking. I was drinking and depended on alcohol. Like it was horrible. Probably one of the worst seasons of my life. Because it went from being abused to suicide to drinking to it just kept getting worse.
Right.
So then to medication. Like over time, it caused depression. It was like I couldn't face my reality. I couldn't let go of what had happened. And a lot of it, I blame myself. So I lived in regret for like a long time, for years. Like I should have done or I shouldn't have done. Maybe if I would have said this wouldn't have happened. Maybe if I, would have done that. I just kind of always had that thought. So I went, it was just the worst season, and it just kept getting worse. Everybody that in my life I hurt because I was still hurt. It was like I lived in defense mode. Um, like any relationship, or like I wouldn't even really get in relationships. I would be like, I like to have the dude mentality. Like I would just be like, listen, I'm just gonna get what I want and we're done.
Right.
I had to do, I wouldn't commit to anybody. So in that, it was like they would catch feelings and I'd be like, nope, get out my face. Like I responded and I hate it. I hate it. I didn't love. I hated myself. So I became the abuser in all of that. You would think that it would have the opposite effect on me, but I became the abuser. Instead of being, yielding myself to God, I yield myself to the devil almost. Like instead of becoming more like God, I became more like the abuser. And that was what it was. It led from one thing to another, from abuse to suicide to drinking to medication. And I finally made my way out. And it was a while before I could get out mentally. It was so much involved in that. I didn't realize how it attached itself to so much in my life.
Right.
I'm thinking like, oh, I'm over it. But no, it was like a seed that was sown. That grew.
After that night, sorry to cut you off, but after that night, did you find yourself more? You stated that you became like the abuser, but did you ever fear that he was ever going to hit you again or react that way again?
Yeah, I did. There were times where he jacked me up. He jacked me, threw me up against the wall, choking me. Like we still fought. Like we did it. It wasn't ever that bad. He never hit me with anything else, like an object, but we still fought. And I just always made excuses for him. I was like, it'll stop.
And so you saw it as something like this will work out. This.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm gonna pray him through.
we can go to church. He'll say, gotta save him.
Did he ever apologize afterwards?
Yes, he did. He did. Like I said, he was on drugs. And I never been around anyone that was on like those type of drugs. So I didn't know like the signs to look for. I didn't know. I was so clueless until he came to my house one day and he was in there cooking crack. And I was like, what are you doing? I thought he was boiling Alka-Seltzer or something. I had no idea. Like I was so clueless.
That's the thing too. When you violate somebody like that, you shatter what's normal in their life. I mean, for instance, it's a different, but also I think it also brings about a sort of grief when that happens, because what you once knew or the life that you once lived is no more, and it's taken away something it's taken away that shelter or that safety that you once lived, and it's funny that you're saying this, because you see a person and a person's acting a certain way, or a person is doing certain things, and the first thing most people do is we go into a place of judgment, not realizing what that person has actually gone through, and what they've gone through, and how much they're fighting to just stay alive. But instead of us being sensitive to people, we're busy running them down and talking, and they're screaming out for help. And it's funny you said when Sherry asked, if she said people don't just go around, because it's a place of it's embarrassing to tell people that, for one, but two, people are screaming out for help,
Mhm.
and and people don't believe that they've gone through these things or whatever the case may be. So it's hard, you know what I mean? So to keep from going through the embarrassment, to keep from going through all the shame or the funny looks, people just keep quiet and
Right.
suffer in silence.
That is so true. And it, like, for me, I was going through it silently.
Mhm.
But I would hear my name on the streets.
Yeah.
You know, people talked about me. You know, they called me out of my name. Again, I was still in the church. People dogged me, but they didn't know the seed that was sown. So even it started, I believe it started before the abuse, because I dealt with neglect.
Mhm.
I dealt with being promiscuous. I dealt with so many other things, from things that I dealt with in my childhood.
Mhm.
So it just kind of kept getting worse. And I'm just like really like just realizing all this. So,
Mhm.
but people didn't know my story.
Right.
So they only judged me from what they saw, you know, or what they heard. So
Yeah.
it was very hard. Very hard. Like I can't
You
even.
you made a statement. You said I was silent throughout the whole process. Why did you choose to be silent? Why didn't you tell your mom or your dad or your brothers or a close friend, a best friend? Because you know most girls, we run to our best friend. You know what were you feeling?
Because I was a private person. I
Mhm.
didn't want people to look at him in the wrong way. I wanted to protect him. Like I felt like I could save him. And I didn't want nobody to look at him bad. Um, I was more so trying to protect him than anything. And I felt like I'm Superwoman. I can handle anything. I don't need nobody. That was my mentality. Like I've always been that strong woman that I never really had to talk to nobody. Like I felt like I could handle everything on my own. So I didn't run and tell anybody, because like I was private and I didn't feel like, I wasn't scared to tell them. I just didn't.
And so
And I
is
knew
that
my
still
family response was probably going to be something
the
different.
right?
So
Right.
it was
So
like,
I'm
no, let me just handle this.
So do you feel like that's still your choice now? Because you said this is my first time really talking about it. You know, I'm not saying you were quick to say, but you were like, well, I've been through that, Sherry. And I know you trust me to
Okay.
a certain extent to share that with me. So, you know, but now you saying this is my first time really like explaining it and talking it out. So it sounds like it's been years and you're choosing still not to like verbalize and talk about it. Is it something hard for you to express? Or are you just choosing not to? Is it because you private, or have you blocked it away in your mind like most of us? You know, it happened. Okay, I'm gonna throw it in the back somewhere. I ain't got to deal with it no more. Move on.
I think it's like, I don't I don't even think about my history anymore. I don't think
Mhm.
about it. I don't know if that's, you know, the Bible says, forget the former things, you know, cast all your cares upon him. I cast it over here. I casted it to him, and now I don't know it no more. There's certain parts of my life that I try to forget. I don't want to remember. Even things people that have hurt me. I try to look at people for who they are now and not for who they was.
Yeah,
That's why I say,
I don't see anything. I mean, you're not shying away from it. You're not denying that it happened. But I don't see anything wrong with it, because you can't allow what happened in your past to control your present and your future. You can't allow your past to be your God. You know, so yeah, it happened, you know, but I'm no longer at that place. I can help you come out of that place now because I've gone through that place. And so I'm no longer there. So yeah.
I'm gonna ask one more question. I'm gonna to piggyback off, and then we're gonna go ahead and go to Lucretia. The reason why I asked the question, a lot of time I ask questions because you never know who's out there who might want to hear a certain answer. But the reason also too, the reason why I want to know, because you said after you went through that situation, you said you went through suicide, you went through alcoholism, you know, you went through a lot of you were angry, you know, you went through a lot of steps or a lot of things of PTSD that most people will come after a traumatic situation, and you chose not to speak or discuss it with anyone. You know, you chose not to go to a counselor. Know that you was going through these negative and bad situations that could have led to death or something else, you know what I'm saying, or put yourself back in that position again. You chose not to. And the reason why I'm saying that, because I get what you're saying, you know, once you pray and give it to God and move on, but then there's still some healing that needs to take place. Because like I said, she went through a lot of things, such as suicide, alcoholism, because that's what we tend to do when we're hurt or we damaged or we lost a part of ourselves. We tend to turn to vices that can destroy us or kill us instead of turning to the positive places that we need to, like giving it to God or going seeking a counselor or finding a best friend that we can trust or confide in that can help us and help restore us to a place of healthiness. And so that's why I was asking, you know, do you feel like it's still a place that you choose to not to discuss because of still some hurt or some residue of it, or is it because you really gave it to God and you said, okay, whatever, you know, or you just blocked it out of your mind? Because some people block those type of things out of their mind and they keep it moving.
I speak from a healed place now. Like, and even from me being the abuser, you know, I really speak from a healed place. Because it wasn't even just that, it was so many other things that it was like that happened. And then I had other situations that happened, and that all of it just kept building up. And from every situation came something, another addiction. So it was just like everything just kept everything in my life, my reality. My last thing was medication. My reality, I hated my reality because I hate facing it. Thinking about all of the things that I have gone through, thinking about everything that I've lost, just everything. I hated it. I hated me. I didn't like me. Like, I felt like being on medication kept me from seeing me, everything that was in me. I trusted the medication more than I trusted God.
Wow.
It was like, if I didn't have that medication, I probably wouldn't have lived. That was how dedicated and committed I was to this medication. Like, if I don't take my medication, I'm gonna die. And it was gonna be by suicide. So it was so many things that happened after that kept taking me. Like, I saw no light. I went in this tunnel and I saw no light. So that's, but I speak from a healed place. I no longer, I can look at him and be like, hey, God bless you. I'm glad you're good. Like, I look at people for who they are today. I have the gift of love. I can look at you for who you are and not even think about what was. And I love it. I only talk about my past when I'm ministering to someone. But as far as living in that place again, that mentality, that I don't think about it.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. Dr. Lucretia, we asked that you chime in and you share your story, and then we're just gonna have a small conversation with both of you all at the end.
If it's all right, I had a question, because I know sometimes when you talk to different people, sometimes they will say, or you'll see that tries to isolate them to make them think that they're the only one that's going through that. And so as you were talking, that's the one thing I thought about. And then the other thing that I thought about was just church and ministry. And so, you know, this is not to say, you know, what people believe or don't believe, or to speak against anyone in their beliefs. But, you know, I remember being raised in the church where I was raised, and, you know, it was apostolic. And then later on, you know, Pentecostal, but it was notions of, okay, well, whatever you're dealing with, just dance it out, out. And really helping people to really understand that you can't dance everything out. And that's the one thing I thought about when you were talking, because it's like, okay, so moving forward, how do people really understand, like, when I've dealt with this, where do I go from here? Because sometimes you frequently hear that over the pulpit. Come, let me pray for you. Now let's dance it out. And it's like, you can't dance out of abuse.
No.
Like,
Right.
you know, yes, God is there to help you, but you also have counselors. Some things that you're gonna have to get a counselor for. And does the church really talk about it to that degree? Not trying to, you know, yeah. That was the one thing I just wanted to add. Like, wow.
I grew up in the church where, you know, in the time where you don't go to counselors. Counselors was of the devil. You know, you go to God for everything, you know. And we weren't allowed, we didn't believe in that.
Mhm.
We're just now coming to the understanding, like, it's okay to go see a doctor. You need a therapy. It's okay to say, I am not okay. But we were taught to just give it to God and shout and speak in tongues and do it again the next Sunday. You be there, come back to church Sunday and God gonna heal you. You know,
because that's the way, you know, people, older ladies back in the days when they went through that kind of stuff, they stuck by their husband. But my thing is, I don't it's an echo, but I don't subscribe anybody, man or woman, to remain in a relationship with anybody, because most of the time we talk about domestic violence, we always talk about the man beating a woman, but there are also women who beat men also. And of course, if a man comes out and say he's being beat by a woman, he's looked at it as weak or no less. But I would advise a man or a woman not to remain in a relationship until you brought some good points about why man or woman remains in a relationship, because they're trying to protect that spouse, but somebody else put up protect, but somebody also change them. And the changing part alludes to Dr. Young. That's another thing at the church. Oh, just pray. God gonna deliver them. Oh, he gonna do it in 3 days. You go and fast and you pray and God's gonna do it. And you skinny as a stick. And
dance right now.
And they still the same.
Praise him to you.
And no offense to, I mean, I love God wholeheartedly. No offense to the methods of the church, but right, and God has power to do anything. He does. He has the power to do everything. All powerful God. But at the same time, you can't remain with somebody who's beating your brains in, because you ain't trying to go to see Jesus early, because you got too much work to do. You know, and the church will tell you, oh yeah, just stay there. Just let them beat your head in. God's gonna deliver them. Are you getting your head beat when you go home? Are you thinking about committing suicide? Are you on medication? Well, if you ain't on that, don't tell me that mess. You know, and so we have to start. We have to start teaching in the church. There's nothing wrong with counseling. Absolutely nothing. God and counseling. God and counseling. A great combination. You might notice I said God and counseling. He wouldn't have put a counselor here if it won't for us to utilize. You know what I'm saying? And yes, so the church is not an expert in everything. Right. Henceforth, sometimes you can go to your pastor, but if your pastor is not a licensed X, Y, and Z, you better go to somebody who has the license and training for it. You know, so, and pastors have to learn their limitations when it comes to certain situations, which is why we should have a network of people that we can, you know, send our members to when they're going through those issues. But God is able to do anything, but those methods
I probably wouldn't have went through more, like everything that I encountered after that, had I gotten counseling going through it. Like, you know, I wouldn't have went through the abuse. I wouldn't have, because I would have been healed. I would have had an outlet, you know, but I didn't. So it just led to from one thing to the next over years. So yeah, I feel like if I would have gotten help, the conclusion of it would have been a lot sooner than what it was. Like I would have been healed mentally.
We praise God for the conclusion that you are at now.
We thank God.
Y'all give him glory. Give him glory.
Listen, you know, we pray together.
All right, Lucretia. Please share your story with us. Share your experience.
Briefly. So in 2020, was at the time school superintendent, and like literally within the very week, and I would say you aware because that was the week when the governor came in and said we're going to close all schools down, music teacher. And so during that very week, when the governor came and said we're going to close all schools down, was that very week that I found out that I had breast cancer. So what happened was I found the lump, found a specialist. Immediately, they began all the tests. And in a matter of pretty much about 2 weeks, they started me on chemo, like April 1st, like literally. It was back to back to back. And so one of the things that I discovered in that process at the very beginning was the doctor looked at my history. And this is something that sometimes we talk about Black people sharing information and not sharing information as relates to their health. And the reason why I say that is because I know that that was something that sometimes my parents didn't share. I'd call my mom and she's like, oh, your dad's not feeling well. What happened? Oh, he just had a colonoscopy and they removed some da-da-da-da. Or I just had a. And so sometimes as our parents experience different things, sometimes didn't think that it was worth telling because, you know, I went to the doctor and this is what happened. But really understanding that the genetics in our family we need to be aware of because it can impact the course of treatment that we receive. And so what had happened was I had gone, and as my doctor began asking me my history as it relates to the various people in my family that had cancer on both my mother and my father's side, he asked me, had I ever had a genetics test? So, which is interesting because maybe about, and most people are probably aware, maybe about 25 years ago, people heard the story of, and I'll just say, I remember Angelina Jolie. She had tested and she was positive for BRCA2. She didn't have any cancer. She had a double mastectomy. Like, you were crazy. And she's like, my mother had cancer. I don't want to have cancer. I'm going to avoid it. And so to avoid it, I'm going to get a double mastectomy. Well, first she had the money for it because insurances aren't going to just pay for it. But the second, people just thought like, what is wrong with you? But that was her way of being preventive. And so went on and had the test. And then when I met with the genetics counselor, he basically told me that I had BRCA2. And so that was the reason behind the diagnosis for the breast cancer. And so because of that, they had to do a very aggressive course of treatment, because in addition to being BRCA2 positive, I was also a triple negative. And a triple negative was none of the medicines in a certain category responded to the type of cancer that I had. And so I was like, okay, what's going on, Lord? I just got this new job in the new state of North Carolina. Me and my 16-year-old son here, my husband and everybody back in Maryland, you know. But with all of that, I was just like, okay, you know, what do I have to do? So they said because of the form of, and it was aggressive, they had to do, it was 5 months of 16 treatment. So the first 3 months I had to go every week. So every Thursday I'd go in. And so the first 3 months I would go in and get 2 different types of chemo, 2 different types of medicine. And then the last 2 months I would go every 2 weeks and get 2 different types of medicine. And people really don't talk a lot about, because it's like, and what's interesting is it's been 7 years. My mother passed of pancreatic cancer 7 years ago. And although I was pretty much there almost every time, you know, she would have treatment, or at least when she would come from her treatment, and that's my mother, it was, and I thought I knew at least a little bit about cancer. It was me. And so it was just really, it was different. And so, you know, but one of the things that I will say is that I discovered was in talking to the genetics counselor, which is why I'm mentioning it, is he said there are a lot of Black people that don't take the genetics test. So the pool for genetics tests is not large. So because the pool is not large, the research is not as in depth for the Black people of color. because many people aren't getting the genetics test. Whereas with many of the other, like Caucasians, they have a lot of different people in the pool because a lot of different Caucasian people are aware of that for whatever reason, maybe because their doctors are telling them about it. So when you have a larger sample size, you're able to do different tests and you're able to be more proactive because you have information that can help the population. And so what was interesting that I noticed was at the very beginning, you know, they told me I had BRCA2. And in the past 2 years, one of the things that I found out was because of just the latest research, because of the increase of Black people taking the genetics test in the past couple years, the genetics test is, or the BRCA2 is now related to ovarian cancer, which they said that they knew that the breast cancer and ovarian cancer were part of BRCA2. Well, because of the latest research, they've now said that prostate cancer is related to BRCA2. They've now said pancreatic cancer is related to BRCA2. And then also the skin cancer, the but it's the skin cancer. And what's interesting is, you know, just the evolution of tests, the evolution of research, the evolution of the pool. And so for me, a part of it was putting that as just for people to know, if you have a number of people in your family that cancer, go get a genetics test. What happened was after I got the test and I was positive, what they said to me was, because I'm positive, now I am the oldest of 4. It's me, my sister, and my 2 brothers. And so the doctor said each of them now has a 50% chance of having BRCA2, to be BRCA2 positive, genetics in the family. And so it's one of those things where when you know about it, you're able to be preventive. And I'll tell you about how me being preventive. So after having gone through the chemo, because of having BRCA2 and the high risk of it coming, it was in my left breast. And because of the high risk of it coming in my right breast, they had to do a double mastectomy. So they did a double mastectomy. And so my doctor basically said that as we were looking at your, you know, all of the CAT scans and MRIs, we noticed something on your thyroid. When we're done with all of this, let's just go check it out. You'll be fine. You know, the chances of having issues with your nodules on your thyroid, they're slim, like you're fine. So then after I had the, you know, the surgery, went back and started getting tests on my thyroid. They came back and they said, you know, inconclusive, fine needle. And that was them putting a big needle in my throat, for those that aren't familiar with those surgeries, those biopsies. They did a fine needle, inconclusive, came back. They said, we're going to do a deep tissue. They came back. And so I had a colleague of mine who told me to go and get a second opinion. And so my husband and I, we went to the Cancer Center Research of America in Chicago. And people were like, you went all the way to Chicago? Yeah, I wanted to live. I want to make sure I was fine. And one of the things that I would also add is, and here I go, not trying to like teach people, but just to put a plug in, is with the Cancer Center Treatment of America, there are different locations across the United States. As long as you haven't, they will fly you and a caregiver out for free. They will provide you with a meal card for all the days you're there, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They pick you up from the, take you to the hotel, which is a Cancer Center Treatment of America hotel, and the hotels are $25 a night. You can't beat that. And so for me, it was about saying, people sometimes say, I can't go and get those elaborate. So say to me, how do you go to Chicago and, you know, every couple months or to do what you do? And so I say, insurance. That's what your insurance is there for. You pay all that insurance, you might as well use it, because if not, the insurance company is going to get rich. And so went there, got a second opinion. Long story short, they came back and they said the first nodule that was tested from my prior doctor in North Carolina, it was negative. The second largest one, which they tested, met their criteria and it had cancer markers. Came in, they took my thyroid out, half of it. Then they came back and said it had cancer. So then they took out the other half of my thyroid. And so I had a total thyroidectomy. The other thing that I will say is, because when I had a genetics test, they told me I had an 85% chance of breast cancer. The reason why I'm saying that is because had I known that I had an 85% chance of breast cancer, there would have been some things that I know I would have done personally to try to be more to intervene. So what they also said was I had a 55% chance of ovarian cancer. And so when they took my thyroid out, they also took my ovaries out. And so now, because it was a 55% chance of ovarian cancer, I won't ever have ovarian cancer because my ovaries are gone. Trust me, 27, 24, 16-year-old. I wasn't trying to have any more children anyway. But, but a part of it was being preventive. And so, and there've been a number of different things that have happened. Even, I will say, over the past 2 years between chemo, I had to get radiation for my thyroid, and that was just this year. In the past 2 years, I've had 6 surgeries. I actually just had my last surgery 3 weeks ago, which was my final surgery, but I don't look like what I've been through. And for me, it's about the grace of God. It's about knowing that at the very beginning when it happened, and I'm going to say just, with that humanistic, sometimes people will say, well, you love the Lord, you're saved. So when you hear bad news, you're like, praise the Lord. No, I wasn't praising the Lord when I heard I had cancer. I was like, why me? And so for me, I had a moment where I was going back and forth with God, like, why me? What's going on? Like, don't I not have, enough on my plate? I have a lot going on. This is going on. And then I heard the Lord say, why not you? And I was like, what's wrong? No, like, why? I mean, why not me? And so then it was this battle of going back and forth with the Lord, just, even to the point where, even as I began chemo, it was just like, I felt like I was in a daze. Like I felt like I was dreaming, because it was like, they said I had cancer, but I'm going to wake up from this dream because this is a really bad nightmare. Somebody wake me up, because it's not true. And so because for me at first, I just would not receive it, like, what's going on. And so, I would say probably about, even to the point, and I'll say probably for about a month, I was still, as I call it, stuck in my feelings and my emotions, and just stuck. And I remember even going in to get treatment. And when I would go in to get treatment, I'd walk into this room, and in the room, when you go and get your chemotherapy, most places that I, have seen, you go into this big room and you probably have about 15, 20 people, 15, 20 chairs. People are sitting there. And when I walked in, everybody was looking at me when I first walked in, because everybody was like senior citizens, like, okay, what you doing here? We like 60, 70 years old. You young. What are you doing here? And so then I would go in and I was just, just upset, just angry, just upset, like, like mean mugging. And people were like walking in like, hi, how's everybody doing? I'm like, I got cancer. You got cancer. Why are you asking about? But I didn't say it. But in my mind, I'm like, we all got cancer in here. What you so happy about? Because I just struggled with it. And so then that was like about a month. And then finally it was just like, okay, you got to get yourself together. And this is the interesting thing. Even though I was still angry with God, I was still doing my devotional. I was still praying, but I call it the angry prayer. Like, God, really? And I call it the angry prayer. And some people may say, no, you didn't do that to God. I had to be honest with myself and where I was. And so for me, it was about that transparency of, God, this is where I am. I am upset. I'm upset because I just thought that you would protect me. I'm upset because I thought that, I shouldn't have to deal with this. And for me, it was just coming to the understanding that, things happen in life. Crisis happens to everyone. Life just happens. And, and then a quote that I remember came back to me. Life, sometimes not fair, but God is always, and so it was for me of saying, you know what, in the midst of what's going on, what am I going to do? And how am I going to get through this? And so for me, it was okay, I realized that this is not a dream. Wake up. And then what am I going to do? And then that's when I began to say, if I'm going to do this thing, then everything in me has to speak faith if that was something that I was going to believe. And so when I realized, no, like that's what I want, because like I said, about a month in, I was just still struggling, angry, just angry. And then I just came to the point where, like, what do you want? Do you want to live? And if you want to live, you just can't keep on this track. And so what happened was I just said, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to have to believe God. And if I'm going to believe God, that means everything around me is going to have to align with believing God. And so it came to, the point where, I told Apostle Spence, I told my pastor in DC, and I didn't tell a lot of people. I just told my 2 leaders between North Carolina and DC. And then I told, just a small group of my friends. My family knew, my father or my siblings knew, my husband and my children knew, but that was pretty much about it. And I even later on had people say to me, well, why didn't you tell me? I could have been supportive of you. I could have been there for you. And I say to them, it wasn't you, it was me, because I didn't even know how I was going to get through this, much less looking at you and getting the help, from you. And then also just in transparency, seeing my dad, because, 5 years prior, my mom had just passed and we had gone through that. And so then you have my family looking at me saying, don't take chemo because chemo killed our mother. And I'm like, okay, well, the doctors are saying chemo. What am I? So it was just a lot. And so with all of that coming, I just had to pull away and just get with God and just say, what do we need to do? And so that's when, the decision was made. Well, I want to live. And so that means, okay, my prayer needs to be to live. It can't be this angry prayer of, it's your fault, God, you got me here, because that wasn't getting me anywhere. And so as I came into the agreement, I just said, you know what, everything I'm going to do, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to act like I'm already healed. And some people may say, like that's delusional. For me, it was about saying, God, I'm going to use faith. And I have faith that this is not my end. And because I know it's not my end, I'm going to act like it. And so even when my hair had fallen out, I had my oldest son take a clip. He shaved my hair. I went and got that nice lace wig, and I put that nice lace wig on, because guess what? Everything around me was going to look good. My lashes were off. My eyebrows were off. Went and got new lashes, put them lashes on, put makeup on. Because for me, I was like, I want to look good. I want to feel good. So when I got up and I would go to chemo, I put my makeup on. It was just, even on Sunday mornings, we would have service, it would be online. And, when the praise and worship team was going in, I was, dancing, raising my hand. Because for me, I was like, God, everything in me is going to align with your word. Everything in me is going to align with your promises. And if your promises say I can do this, then guess what? I'm going to do it. And I'm going to stand on your promises, and I'm going to act like it. Even when it came down to go to the cancer center treatment, before I was going in like, don't look at me, don't bother me. And then when I had a made up mind, I would go in bouncing with a little step like, hey, y'all. And they were like, hey. And I'm like, because I'm, and then I started talking to people, and, we were sharing our stories and just a very different perspective. And it was because I decided, and that's the piece, the choice. I made up in my mind that I wanted to agree with God and God's word. And because of that, and like I said, everything around me, even to the point where when I would talk to different people, if you weren't talking faith around me, we weren't connecting. And there were some people who I knew if I spoke to, they would start to crying, or, the death. And I'm like, Like those people in your life, don't get me wrong. We our circles of people, but it was like, I needed people in my circle that were going to speak faith in my ear. I needed people in my circle that was going to believe God with me. I needed people in my circle that were praying with me and praying on my behalf. And if I did call them, they were believing God. So I would text past Apostle Spence, and I'm believing God. And I would say, I'm going through chemo, but I'm believing God. And it got to a point where And some people may say, what is wrong with you? I started counting down my 16 treatments. I would text my girlfriends, what? 3 of 16? And I would give these pom-poms. And I would say 5 of 16. And I would say 8 of 16. And they would say, girl, you halfway through. And I would give the pom-poms. And people were like, what are you doing? Some people may say that. But for me, I knew that like that. And I call it the like the apple in Times Square, how when that ball drops to New Year. For me, I started celebrating because I'm like, God, 13 more treatments to me being healed because I know you're going to heal me. God, 12 more treatments, 10 more treatments, 5 more treatments because God, I know in the end. And when I met with my surgeon and my oncologist, they were saying, well, when this is over because of your aggressive, cancer, if you have cancer, when we, remove your breast, you're going to have to do 6 more months of chemo. And I looked at the doctor and I said, no, I won't, because I'm going to be healed. And then she gave me this look like, oh, okay, you one of them. And then she was like, just keep the positive attitude. Yeah. And I said, no, I will not have cancer. Because for me, it was like, oh, because if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this 100%. Like everything around me. And she was just like, oh, okay. When I went and spoke to my surgeon, he was saying the same. And I was just like, yes, I hear you, but I'm going to be cancer free. So, okay, so talk to me. What else? What else you need to say? And he was like, well, I just want to tell you the other side. I said, I hear you, but I don't need to know the other side. Because we need to talk about me being cancer free and what I need to do, because that's where I'm going to be. And he was just like looking at me like, oh, we got one of them up in here. Okay. Oh, and I said, you can say whatever you, and I said, cancer free. And he was like, well, when we take out your lymph nodes, we're going to test them because your lymph nodes, we're going to test them. And so he was like, and if it's positive, the cancer may have spread through your body. And I said to him, my breast is going to be free of cancer. All those lymph nodes you taken out are going to be free of cancer. When this is all said and done, I'm going to be free of cancer. And I'm just letting you know that. And he was like, oh, like still that the big eyes. And I never forget when he called me about a week or so after I'd had my double mastectomy. And he called me. He was like, I just want to call to give you a pathology report. And I was like, okay. Like, I know I'm cancer free, but go ahead. He was like, oh my goodness, the breast, no cancer. And I was like, yeah, like, okay. He was like, in the lymph node, the first one, no cancer. Like, the second one, no cancer. The third one, like, all your lymph nodes, they were free of cancer. Like, and I said, okay, like, I'm waiting for him, like, okay. And he was like, oh my goodness, like, you don't have cancer. And I was like, yeah, he was like, and you spoke it, you told me, you spoke it. And for me, it was just, once again, the confirmation of, God, thank you for allowing me to be in that place, to be able to share and to allow your light to shine, because there are people that are going to come after me that will come into contact with probably those same doctors. And for me, hopefully it was an opportunity for God to get the glory. I know it was an opportunity for God to get the glory because he was so convinced that I was going to have something, because they'd already told me my next phase of treatment. But as I continued to declare it and say it, and he was surprised by it. And I said, yeah. And the only thing he could say is, you spoke it. And the only thing I could think about was the Bible. And the word says, power of life and death is in the tongue. And for me, it was like, I'm speaking it, I'm declaring it, I'm decreeing it. And it was, and I thank God that he was able to see that the words, not because of me, but because of God and my faith, it became a reality. And my prayer is that it planted a seed in my doctors so that they could now see that, God is able. Yeah, you're the doctor, but you're not the great physician. And we say that in the church in a way that's the great physician, but no, he really is the great physician, and really understanding that what we know the Bible to be, the Bible is, if you accept it. And one of the things that, and I know you told me earlier to talk about my book, but one of the things that I will say is that in my book, one of the things I talk about is how God was with people testament, and how God was Jehovah Jireh. He provided, and how God was Jehovah Nisi. He was banner, because that place marked the place where God provided for them, and he was their banner. And what sometimes people may not even realize is, although people say, oh, that's the Old Testament, but really understanding that that was a place that was memorialized as a place where God did something for them, but understanding that the word of God is powerful and is alive, that I too and you too can use that same word. And so when we say Jehovah, Rapha, he's my healer, he wasn't just a healer then, he's still a healer now. And so a part of it is knowing that, wherever we are on our journey and our track of life, understanding that where we may have considered that that was Old Testament and that's what happened to them, understanding that that word is alive, and the word talks about being quick and alive and sharper than a two-edged sword. And so understanding that wherever you are, the word can become alive in your life. Agree with it and believe God for it, because he can be a provider, he can be a way maker, he can be your banner, he can be your healer. But a part of it is you connecting with the word and understanding that you too can have your memorial, as I call it. And so my memorial is knowing that, God is a healer, 2-time cancer survivor, and he's healed me. I stand on that and I move forward. And I'll just add this other piece. The other thing that was interesting was after, I went through my, my treatment, all of a sudden I started seeing people on TV and seeing people on Facebook where the cancer was coming back. And then the devil was like, oh, you see that? That cancer came back to them. And then all of a sudden it just seemed like everywhere I looked, I started seeing people in my area of cancer coming back. And I'm not talking about my physical area, but like the social media and TV. And then the enemy kept saying, you see that? You see that? And it was just, so at first when it happened, I spoke to my husband, I spoke to my girlfriends, and I was like, the enemy is really trying to like make me go back on my word. And then all of a sudden and I'm just going to say it, I then started having like, not panic attacks, but like moments of anxiety. Like, is this really gonna come back to me? Like, God, I had cancer already, so like I could get it again. Like, you didn't stop it the first time, and I'm being transparent. And it was like the enemy kept playing it. Yeah, see. And then I began to become paralyzed, and I began to become worrisome, and just like I said, just the anxiety of, will I get away? And then it was one of those things where I would pray and ask God, like, God, I believe you. And then I'd feel a peace. And then I'd see an ad again, and it triggered me like, oh, see that ad again, because it was just that reminder. And then one day I was watching somebody on TV, and it wasn't about the cancer, but it was about something else. And one of the things they said was, they were like, to live, you live here. To die is with Christ. And they said some other things, but what I took away from that was I had to come to a resolve that, God, you did it before. And I believe that, God forbid, if it were to come back, I know you're God enough to do it again. And I also know, and I have a peace to know, that if, God forbid, it were to come back and I were to pass, I had to have a resolve of saying that, you know what? If I'm here, I'm still yours. And if I die, I'm still yours. And as the person said, so I'm here, I live in you. And if I die, guess what? I'm still dying in you. And when I started saying, it don't even matter, because at the end of the day, whether I'm here or over there, God, I'm still in you. So enemy, you can play those games. That's fine. Because guess what? You still lose. I still live, whether I'm here or there. And when I started saying it like that, because of my perspective, now, do I want to die? No. But for me, it was just about the understanding of, at the end of the day, I still belong to God. Like the saints used to say, my whole body belonged to God. My whole body, it belongs. And it was saying, yes, it belongs to you, God. And I know that there's more for me here to do. And so because of that, I know that I'm here for a reason. And even the more, it just strengthened my resolve to even fight more. And to also do what, he's given me to do. I know it was a lot.
Yeah, this preacher that I heard, he said that when we pray, he says, stop praying that God is going to do. He said, because when you pray that you pray that prayer that God is going to do, he said, it's as if you're saying God is not able to do it. He said, so when you pray, he said, pray that God has done it. He's already done it. That you're already healed. You're already blessed. You're already whole. He said, start praying because God has already done it. And so I thought that was powerful how you were saying how you were speaking to the doctor, tell the doctor, look, I'm gonna be healed, dude. You know, you can say what you want to say from your little medical stuff, but I'm gonna tell you, when you check all this stuff, I'm gonna be healed. And that's powerful. That's powerful. That's powerful.
I think what blessed me is when you said I made a decision because it was a choice. And I think a lot of people miss that whole concept. Even with Tia and her situation, you went through all through those things. From, like you said, from medication, depression, and so forth. You made a decision. You had a real life situation to happen to you. And I think that's what God looks for us to see if we're going to make a decision to totally trust him. When I first got saved, Donnie McClurkin had a song with Will You Trust Him? And
yeah, he did.
I forgot what it's called.
On his album.
Yeah, he said it. Will you trust him? I forgot
Will you
what
trust him? Even yeah, he was.
Yeah, he know what I'm talking about. It's, you know, and he would ask you a couple of questions. If I take your loved one, will you still trust me? You know, but I love the song. And so, you know, and I think the thing is, a lot of times the key word is trust, and we don't know what that trust entails. We don't know if we're going to get diagnosed with a deadly disease. We don't know if we're going to be battered. We don't know if we're going to lose a loved one. We don't know any of those things. Yeah. But at the end of the day, are we going to make a decision to trust him? And the thing is, you made a decision and then you lived it out. You walked it out. And I think that's the thing we have to do. No matter what we go through or what life brings us, you have to sit there and make a decision to say, I'm not going to go through this no more. Because Tia stated earlier, she's like, I'm healed. I don't have to. I don't have to deal with this.
Like, I made a decision not to be the victim.
Right.
Not to live as a victim. Like, no. It's like if you live there, you stay there. Yeah. Like, you know, it was so funny because like now when I hear, well, I don't really hear about it now, but like in past times when I would hear people talking about me, I'm like, why do you live in my past? I don't even like my past. Why are you there? You know, why would you want to be in a place like that?
You're where I was.
Yeah, like you're there, girl. Come out of there. Don't stay there because that was depressing for me.
Right.
I pray for you that you come out of my past because I don't want to live no more. So why are you there?
Want those spirits to transfer, okay?
Like it's powerful when you make that decision, and for for you to make that decision, live it, and then even when the enemy toyed with you, you know what I'm saying? Because we think once it's over, it's over. Nope. The enemy still is gonna throw some things your way to trigger you to get you to try to come back, and you was like, you know what? You had a moment, okay, but I'm not coming back there. You know,
it is your response to the moments. The thoughts never stop. They never stop coming. Like you're gonna always. You'll have moments when you'll think about it, but now it's your response to the thoughts.
Right. And the thing I love is the transparency in saying, because that's another thing that the church will tell you. You're never gonna. No, it comes. Them thoughts are gonna come back. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have your moments where but when those moments come, right, you got to speak against those moments. You can't allow it to plant seed. Well, you can't allow that seed to grow. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's the thing. You're gonna have your moments, but that's what it's called, a moment, which means it doesn't last for a long time.
It's temporary.
Yeah, I can say from a healed place, I'm no longer on medication.
See, like,
that's why your skin light.
I'm gonna talk to you after church. I'm gonna talk to you after church. Like, I'm no longer on, I'll say from that medication. I still take Adderall. But anxiety, depression. Now, I'm not encouraging nobody to stop taking their medication. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying I was healed and I no longer depend on that to survive.
Right.
My hope is on nothing less than Jesus' blood and all his righteousness.
Like you don't encourage it, but you're standing here to say that God is able to do it because you are a living example that he is. And same thing with Dr. Young. You don't encourage people not to take chemo, but for you and your healing, that was a process that God had to take you. And that's the thing. None of us likes to go through a process. None of us likes to suffer. We just want to see the victory and right off of the sunset. And that's somewhat what the church teaches is victory, victory, victory. But they don't tell you all that stuff, all that mental and physical battle and emotional battle that you got to go through on the way to your victory. You know what I'm saying? We don't like to suffer. We just want a victory. But it's that process. Once you go through that process changes your outlook about life altogether. Matter of fact, people get to the point where you don't even care about people because they're like, I done been through too much stuff to allow what you got to say or what you got to do or what they said about me to stop me from being who God has called you to be. You know what I'm saying? Call me to be.
We are way over our time, but I wanted everybody to really share the story. And thank you, Dr. Young, because I really have no questions. Because like literally when I was lining up my questions, you came right behind and you start answering them.
She was a superintendent.
But I mean, you know how to tell your story.
She said organization was part of her. It's not part of her.
Teaching organization. Yes, I mean so. So
I do want to add one.
Do you know Miss Minnie Fort Brown, Dr. Minnie Fort Brown?
No, I don't.
She's probably about a doggone Durham icon in education. You remind me of her.
Yeah. But yeah, so thank you so much for both of you all sharing your story. I mean, we could go on, and I do have a few more questions, but honestly, the time is passing us, and it's waning.
We're gonna call you Lucretia after this. You know, right now we call you Dr. Young.
And so, you know, but
MLY.
But thank you so much for sharing your ups, your downs, being transparent, being honest about what you went through, and there's probably still a lot of things that happen in these stories that you still did not share. But hopefully that someone heard something tonight. Someone was encouraged. Oh, I'm about to let you tell it. I'm about to let you end it. We're
gonna let you get the
y'all gonna get the last word. Y'all gonna get the last word. But you know that I pray that someone was encouraged on tonight. Somebody heard this story, that somebody out there is being silent, but yet they're gonna choose to make a decision to speak up, or at least speak to the right person or speak to God. You know, and if someone is going through, like, you go and find out, go research your body. Like you said, go get that genetics test. A lot of African Americans don't do that. That's something that we need to look into, research, find out, see what we're dealing with here, and let God guide us with wisdom and how to go about this whole process. What? I hate when you do it. And so with that being said, I am done. So last words, Tia Farrar, you go first, and any encouraging words, any advice that you want to give anybody. Then Dr. Young, you end it the same way. Any advice or encouragement that you would like to give anyone, and also promote your book as well.
Well, you on mute first of all, so we can't hear you, T.
Sorry. I would just say for someone that is currently going through that, it's not love. That's not love. There's no excuse. Love don't hurt like that. You go through things in love, but love don't hurt like that. Love don't leave bruises. Love don't leave scars. So make your way out. There is an escape. Talk to somebody. Get help. Go to a therapist. Go to your friend. Tell somebody, because nobody deserves that. Nobody. To the one that made it out, that still lives there, that's still mentally there, get help. Therapy. Call on God. God's grace is sufficient. God was my source. But therapy and God is a wonderful combination. He's a healer. I stand as a living testimony. He is a healer. If God ain't healed nobody else in life, I feel like I'm going to be the one that's in the next Bible. It's going to be a whole chapter of me. Turn to the book of chapter Latia in the next life. Because I am a product of God's grace.
Well, just put all that in your book when you write it.
Oh God, I said I was gonna write a book name called Raising Grace, but I was just talking about raising London. Not me.
You still can do that too.
But that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It was a first, so I really appreciate this opportunity. It was such an honor to be on the panel with you, and it was so nice to meet you, Dr. Young, as well.
She said with you. She didn't say that about me. Some light skin.
I love you too, Pastor TJ.
Whatever.
Y'all, I'm telling y'all, so I just want to say, write the book. That's all I'm going to say. Write the
We'll
book.
talk.
But you
And
got to
so,
write.
But I got you. We'll they have my information. We'll exchange. Write the book. Write the book. I see you as an author. Write the book.
Prophesy.
Yes. Yes. So the only thing that I would say is just my final words are, and which is interesting. These are the 3 words that came to me even when you said prophesy. Hear the word, receive the word, and see the word in action. Because faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Hear the word, receive the word, and see the word. And that's what happened to me. I was at a point where I heard God saying that I could be healed. I received it. That's not something that somebody laid hands on me to do. I received it. And then when I received it, I saw it. And when I saw myself healed, I walked in my healing, because I knew, as they said, God had already healed me in heaven, and I was just waiting for the manifestation on earth. And so because I saw myself healed and I prayed and I knew that that was the outcome, I believed in the manifestation. And so that's just my final word. And whatever you're going through, know that God is able. And I know people sometimes throw that word out like love, like la, but God is able. God is able to do above, exceedingly above what we could ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. And the power that's in us is the Holy Spirit. And so just think what you think, and then add another infinite level to that, and know that God can exceed that because of the Holy Spirit, because Holy Spirit lives in us. And so I do have, actually, because I've been on medical leave and I'm in the process of trying to go back to work. I've been wanting to, but for the past year, I've been at home. And so I wrote a book. It's called The Prayer of Axa. And the book pretty much journals my process. And it speaks to Axa. She's the daughter of Caleb. And I talk about her story and her journey and her prayer, because she has a prayer. And I take that prayer and then I align it to, well, I'm reminded of it because I'd heard about her, and I'm pretty much use it as my process to my healing and to my breakthrough. And so it's available on Amazon. It's called A Prayer of Axa. You can Google my name. I do have a website. My website is my name, Mary L. Young. If you can remember Mary L. Young, you have my website. Try to keep it simple. And then the other thing that I've done for any of those that are educators, I just wrote a book that I published a couple months ago, and it's a book for parents, because one of the things that's been near and dear to my heart has been the engagement of parents, but understanding that many times parents aren't as engaged in the school system because they really don't understand the school system. Their experiences of the school system probably weren't positive. And so the book that I wrote was Act Like a Parent, Think Like a School Superintendent. Things they won't tell you. And what I do is I tell parents the school district's ecosystem. I tell them about the player. I talk about the games. I talk about the landscape, and I talk about things that they need to know and be aware of so that they can get a win for their child in the educational arena. And that's something that I'm doing most recently. You know, the fairy godmother of education. So just the branding of daily tips on Facebook and YouTube, but just really, and I just speak to just empowering parents, because there's so many parents that are suffering in silence and don't know what to do with their child and the educational system, and just unfortunately comments are made to them that are not sometimes in the best light, especially for our communities where we have social economic status. So, you know, our impoverished communities. And so a part of it is saying, you know, this arms parents so that they can know what they need to do so that they can help their children so that they can be successful in school as well. So just that plug. But Mary L. Young, and God bless. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to this book. I'm telling you, girl, I see it.
I am too.
Hallelujah.
I'm looking forward to you sewing into the Thursday Love or RTP Church. Oh, praise the Lord.
Also, I have an extra book. What you said, the Prayer of Asa. I have an extra book to you. If you don't have one, I can give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I have an extra one. I have two. So,
Okay.
so I can give you one.
Support.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
I'm sorry,
yeah,
my child being distracted me. It's 10:30.
Well, we about to go. London, we about to go, boo. Thank you again so much, both of you all, for sharing your story and gracing Thursday Love with us on tonight. Fix your face to that baby.
She might need to get your book, Dr. Young.
So yeah, continue to share, continue to inspire, and be that guiding light, that example that so many people are looking forward to in their lives, and that hope that they're looking forward to. Once again, y'all have a blessed weekend. Y'all have a great one for those that tuned up here and they went and came back. Thank you for supporting. Y'all have a great night, a great weekend. Y'all be safe out there. So much love to you guys. Take care.
Love you, Cher Bear.
Love you too, sweetie.
I love you, CJ.
Oh, whatever.
Da, 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 da.